Planet Dolan.
From really bad geology puns to god-awful knock-knock jokes, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the most awkward jokes we've ever told. My name is Nixium, and today, I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Ghost Toast 2. Once in 5th grade, Ghost Toast had a geology class with a girl he had a big ol' crush on. The teacher paired the students up, and Ghost Toast, oh yeah, he was paired up with his crush. So he was really excited. Everyone was then handed shovels and was told to dig for rocks. And Ghost Toast's partner said that he should use the shovel because, you know, he's the stronger one. She then handed him the shovel, and he looked her straight in the eye and said, "This is groundbreaking." Everyone stopped and stared at him. And literally, nobody laughed. For the rest of the day, he was given the nickname Digger. Number 9 was submitted by JMH Guy. Pringle's worst joke goes something like, a party of adventurers walked into a witch's cottage. A black cat leapt onto the table. "Hey look," one adventurer said with enthusiasm, "it's one of those witch's cats." Actually, stated the more educated one in the bunch, they are referred to as familiars. The third person, who was a little bit dull, looked at the cat in confusion and mused, "It doesn't look very familiar to me." Yep, that's it. That's the joke. Did you laugh? You didn't laugh. Number 8 was submitted by Clementine, TWD. Zaraganba was hanging out with his friends one day, and they were passing around some really cheesy jokes. It was Zaraganba's turn, so he stood up, he cleared his throat, and he said, "What cheese do you use to lure a bear?" Cam on bear. He thought it was hilarious, so he started laughing uncontrollably like a maniac, and then suddenly his crush walked up behind him and stared while he had tears of laughter rolling down his double chin. Nobody else was laughing, and he looked like an insane person. So she never spoke to him again. Number 7 was submitted by XX Blazing Rhythm XX. Sidious was in school with a friend, and they were pretty bored. He said to his friend, "Hey dude, you want to hear a joke?" And he said, "Sure." So Sidious began. He said, "A guy wakes up in the morning and he digs a 10-meter hole. The next day he goes back and digs another 10 meters, and another, and another." He repeated the last line until his friend said, "Dude, stop. That isn't even funny." To which Sidious replied, "It might not be that funny, but you can't deny it's not deep." Sidious snort laughed until he realized that his friend wasn't laughing, or even smiling, and then they just went back to sitting in silence. Number 6 was submitted by Pearl Taken. When Gergak was in the 5th grade, his math teacher was giving everybody homework at the end of class. Gergak and his friend Spinal Palm asked if they could make a math joke for the class. They stood up and Gergak asked, "What's 9 plus 10? They didn't have the actual joke prepared, so Spinal Palm blurted out 21. Everyone, including the teacher, sat there confused, wondering if they missed the punchline. Even I'm sitting here confused. I guess the joke was that it was not the right answer? I don't know. Either way, the teacher told them to sit down and shut up and never tell a joke again. Number 5 was submitted by PhotoMonkey33. In school, M. Kyle M. was so bored in his typing class that he decided to raise his hand. When the teacher called on him, M. Kyle M. said to her, "I wanted to tell you a farmer's joke, but it was corny." Nobody laughed. Nobody reacted. Some kid at the back let out an awkward cough. Even the teacher just sighed. He thought he would at least get some reaction, but he got nothing. A few seconds later, he got up and he screamed, "I'm a special snowflake, okay?" He sure got a reaction that time. His teacher gave him detention for a week. Number 4 was submitted by Devourer908. When Emoji started at a new school, he was pretty desperate to make some friends. One day on the school bus, Emoji noticed it was snowing, and he made a really bad joke about snow. He kept nudging the other students and telling them how cool it was outside, and pointing out the window and that everyone should just chill. The other students were rolling their eyes so hard you could almost hear their eyeballs spinning. Everyone says dumb things when they're young, but nobody likes excessive puns. Number 3 was submitted by Yo Kevin T. One day, an old man decided to sit next to Melissa at a bus stop. They sat in silence for a while, and then the old man kept trying to tell her jokes. He insisted on talking to her. She sighed, and she decided to acknowledge him. "What does a rock say to another rock?" he asked her. "I don't know," she replied with a tone that insisted that she did not care. "Life is hard," he whispered to her. She shuddered, and she thanked her bird god when the bus finally arrived. Number 2 was submitted by the Perfect Utopian 17. When Andy was in 7th grade, she was walking down the school hallway with Adam, who was one of her best friends, who she also had a crush on. She wanted to make him smile, so she said, "Knock, knock," and he replied, "Who's there?" "Olive," she replied. "Olive who?" "Olive, you." And now, the moment you've not been waiting for. Number 1 was submitted by me. One time, I was working with this dude at my first ever job, and we were given the task of putting out Christmas stuff around the store. Well, I thought we were all done, but when I went and checked the back, I found one last massive box of stuff that still needed to be put out. I picked the box up, I carried it over to where we were working, and the guy I was working with immediately said, "Yo, what's in the box?" I just looked at him straight in the eye, and I said, "Your mom." There was an awkward pause for a moment, and then he said, "Dude, that's not cool. My mom died last week in a car accident." There was another long and very awkward pause. He stared at me, and I stared at him while holding the box. Suddenly, though, he bursted out laughing, saying he was just kidding and that he was just pulling my leg. And then I started laughing too, and I told him, "You know, it's so funny, like, I didn't even care." That caused him to go silent again. It was great. Alright, so a huge thanks to the folks over at our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. But we have another question for you. The question is, what is the dumbest way you have tried to start a conversation? Let us know in the Reddit page linked below, and you might be featured in a future countdown.
This video was made possible by our fans over on Patreon. Thanks for your support, guys.
Until next time. See ya!